Okay, good morning. Welcome to Brave Indigenous Conversations. It's August 24th, 2023, and I'm going to begin as usual by reading a piece of writing I found that's called Brave Space. I just love this writing. Together we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side. That was written by Mickey Scott B. Jones. She's a Black woman, and she's gone to the spirit world. So this morning I have Marilyn Buffalo with us, and I'm just going to invite you, Marilyn, to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. Um, my name is Marilyn Buffalo. My Cree name is Geeksebalbisimsko, which means morning sun woman. And I think I got this name because I'm an early bird and I go around disturbing people as they're trying to sleep. But I think that's the behavior I've had as a child. So I come by that honestly. I'm the CEO for Nechi Institute based out of Edmonton. And this is a 49-year-old institution that's been dedicated to healing and wellness for our people. And for the past 49 years.
Wow,
So,
it's
yeah, we
amazing.
have 15,000 alumni across Canada and the US.
Hmm.
And we also have trained in Africa, New Zealand, and Hawaii, and many other glorious places in this
Wow.
world. Yeah.
That's amazing. Can you tell the listeners a bit about Nietzsche's background? Like, how did it get started, and how is it funded, and what is Nietzsche Institute?
Well, Nietzsche is, first of all, honoring the spirit of Nietzsche. Nietzsche is a spirit.
Mm,
And I think Poundmaker Lodge was founded in 1973. And back then, there was this resurgence of Indigenous healing, wellness, back to ceremony because many of our residential schools were being shut down. For obvious reasons, you know the history with the residential schools. We don't need to reiterate any of that, but many of our languages and our ceremonies went underground and had been for a long time. And so our ancestors, who are the founders of Poundmaker Lodge, were also, very active in developing this need for addressing the trauma, and they were very brave and in trying to create a brave space for our ancestors. So my aunts, my uncles, everybody was involved in that process.
mm,
And then they said, holy smokes, we need people in our own communities that have the skills. We need to build the capacity. So that's how Nietzsche was formed a year later. So
wow.
October 1974, it was incorporated. And Dr. Wilton Littlechild was student at law at the time and was very, kind in helping our ancestors in the development of the foundational documents and incorporation and
Mm.
so it's a national accredit. We're nationally accredited. Means anyone that comes to our institute gets accredited nationally. They can work anywhere in Canada,
Mm.
and we've maintained that very, in the time I've been here, 5 years. We maintain the need for that to be kept in high esteem. So we are dealing. Well, we've trained probably most of the NADAP workers in our community, um,
I just put up
in
a
your
comment here.
community.
I just put up a comment from Catherine Ann. She says, Nietzsche Institute offers a number of accredited programs that are transferable to many universities and colleges. Nechi is recognized as one of the finest Indigenous training research and health promotion centers in the world. Nechi is a powerful resource for Indigenous people and communities addressing issues such as drugs, alcohol, and gambling addictions, family violence, and prescription drug abuse. Wow, thanks for that comment.
Thank you very much. That is in our website.
Yes.
And I also want to mention that for reasons unimaginable, I cannot even come to terms with this. As a person that's been involved for over, I would say, 55 years in this wellness movement, um, we cannot understand why Nechi is not government funded. At this time, many of us and yourself, Joan, have been involved in the creation of absolutely the best policy research and, academically sound. We've made our case before courts and we've won every Supreme Court decision.
Yeah.
Child welfare is an issue, you know, but we're not at the table yet as to where and how are we going to address the needs for the healing process from the traumas. The
Yeah.
trauma is well documented. There's not one person in this universe that can argue that we haven't done our homework.
Mm-hmm.
Through UNDRIP, through Truth and Reconciliation, MMIW, the final report, the recommendations thereof, you name it, every region, the justice, the need for addressing the corrections and the justice systems. And we still have a recipe for the worst genocidal nightmare that we could have on this planet. And what is worse now is as people are migrating more and more into the urban centers, I would say, at one point, 67% of our First Nation population was now living in the urban centers. The urban centers themselves are having a hard time addressing the need for our people that have gone to the urban community. And, you see that through, you name it, East Vancouver. I was just there in East Hastings, uh, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Calgary. There's tent villages everywhere.
Yeah.
And, at a time when I was president of Native Women Association of Canada, I'd already been involved in addressing the need and the building capacity in the community through education and sports and you name it, business, is that we told them before the National Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement and during Royal Commission of Aboriginal People, after the Royal Commission on Aboriginal People, and at that time Indian Affairs Minister Jane Stewart offered the Statement of Reconciliation, and people drank the Kool-Aid. And I said, there's a piece missing here, and that is the need to address how are we going to, where's the funds to address the IRS, Indian Residential School, and the need for treatment centers, the need for our elders centers, for our elders retirement homes in the community, the hospitals, the need for to address the needs and health needs of isolated communities, So we've done our work. It's the piece that's missing at the end of the day is the action piece.
Yes.
How do we implement all these wonderful resolutions, these calls to action?
Yeah.
That's what's missing.
And yet the
And
most
so we keep
recent,
spinning our wheels.
yeah, the most recent government, federal government, it doesn't really matter to me which government is in power. I mean, the most recent federal government, it seems to appear in the news to be pouring money into our communities, but where is it?
Well, my dad taught me one lesson, well, many lessons, and he said, if you want to know where the power lies, follow the money,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because somebody's supposedly getting all that money, because it sure as heck isn't here at Nechi. You
Yeah.
know, we're having a heck of a time staying afloat.
Yeah.
And because we don't get funding from the province of Alberta or the government of Canada, we operate solely on tuitions.
Mm.
So what students bring to the table is what we operate on.
Mm.
And we hire all our instructors
Mm.
based on that. Now it's not a good, like every other First Nations college and other universities in Canada are granted
Yeah.
as a post-secondary institution recognized under the charters of whatever administration. They get well funded. They get core funding. They get money for this, the registrar, the dean, and everything's covered, but
Mm-hmm.
not at Nichi.
Mm.
And I don't understand that. I
Mm.
cannot accept that.
Mm. And so it's the healing piece. Like you and I, we
Yes.
met recently online through the Deadly Cookums and Aunties and through our similar likes. And I've heard of you. Like you're 10 years older than me, not that much older, but you're very well known, and yeah, you've done a lot with your life. And so I was so happy to get to meet you and get to know you online. And we just stopped in Edmonton and had a quick meal. And so, what do you? Why we've had several conversations already, you and I, about why isn't this happening? Like, why isn't the federal government core funding an institute like Nechi, or land-based healing camps like Nakanakal? Why are they not providing the money where we have identified that it's needed? Why?
I have no idea. There has to be a winning formula, because Nietzsche has the curriculum, we have the elders, we have the resources, we have the staff that have, they're all 60 years plus, the staff, and very wise and very loving and caring.
Mm-hmm.
That is a prerequisite in any institution that deals with traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't hit it with a book.
Mm.
We know that we've tried everything. We've done the provincial, going to provincial schools, and we've done the curriculum for under the churches. No, we need to bring our people back. We
Mm.
need to ground them spiritually in order to begin healing.
Mm.
Now, in order for anyone to enter university or enter Nietzsche, is they have to be sober a minimum of 1 year.
Ah.
It's a prerequisite,
Mm.
and that's and it's an agreement. It's a contract that you sign with Nietzsche,
Mm.
and that is to be clean and sober for 1 year.
Mm.
That's not hard.
Mm.
It means discipline. It means that you must go back and do your own self healing
Mm.
first before you can go out and help others,
Mm.
to ground yourself,
Mm.
to know who you are.
Mm.
So the first course is spirituality and grounding. Then it's self awareness, dealing with your own self, and then finally family dynamics.
Mhm.
That's the third piece, and then the community assessments. How
Mhm.
do I assess? And you're trained in how to do that.
Mhm.
And then finally, we go into the physiology
Mhm.
and the science and the impact on the body, the
Mhm.
physiology. So, and then you learn all those things, and then it's a process. It's a healing process, and it
Mhm.
begins with you.
Mhm.
And that's why it works.
Mhm.
And I will say this, that anybody that I've known, and I've been in this business a long time, maybe not at Nietzsche, but at other institutions, ones that have gone to Nietzsche is foundational healing. They go on to do great and wonderful things. They may not stay in addictions counseling, many do, but they go on to nursing, education, law, medicine, and they've just the sky opens. It's just a wonderful healing aftercare. It's aftercare. That's what it is. And
Mm,
then in the second year, you go on to doing more. You know, but the other thing we've done here is we've helped to build capacity. Is we teach English first and
mm,
second year, so that is to prepare our students to succeed
mm.
if they should go on to post secondary.
Yes.
So it works. The
Nice.
program works. I
Mm,
wouldn't be here if I didn't believe that, that we weren't making a progress
mm-hmm,
agenda. We are doing a lot of good work here.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. Which brings me to that point is a celebration of success. Nechi is celebrating in October 15th, a Nechi graduation, where we have 70 students that we haven't honored yet to during the pandemic, right? We couldn't gather, we couldn't do anything. So, and it's also our 49th anniversary
wow.
this year. And then so these 70 students have been given notice already to join us and celebrate. This is their day. We, the staff here, are very excited. We're trying to, you know, um, build a venue where it'll be, a good energy. So it's a dinner and dance. Tickets are $200. They're already printed and ready to go. But tables can be purchased at $2,000, and all that will go towards the expense of the evening.
Nice. Sounds like
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be an amazing time.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we have people that are waiting on the side, ready to volunteer and start looking at how they can be part of this, the fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be uplifting, and because we're dealing with some pretty heavy. We do some heavy lifting here,
Yeah.
and so do our students. We, like I said, they come. We accept them as they come, as they have come from all kinds of backgrounds. We've had students graduate from here that have been 25 years and as an electrician.
Mm-hmm.
They want to change careers into a more human services
Mm,
agenda.
mm,
So, and some people that have already got degrees in psychology in
mm.
universities, but are missing that traditional cultural piece.
Yeah.
So, it's a very mixed bag of,
How does Nietzsche address the apparent conflict in our communities between traditional ceremonial perspectives and Christian perspectives?
we don't do, we don't see that as a conflict,
Okay.
which is, first of all,
Yeah.
we welcome all faiths.
Mm,
It's more ecumenical in a way that we have people that are Catholic background. We've had people graduate from here that had a master's degree in divinity in our Lutheran and or United Church backgrounds, and yeah, we respect. We build that community, the family of respect.
mm,
We've had one of our students came, and she was a refugee from Africa, and she came, you know, told us her whole story about how she walked 8 days to go to a refugee camp in in Africa, and then eventually ended up in Canada. Could barely speak English, but she wrote very well
mm.
in English, and so we accepted her, and she graduated.
Wow.
So,
I just
and she's
know,
now one of us.
I just know that
We adopted her.
that's awesome. I just know that in the communities, the reality is that we have traditional people who point at Christian people and say that you're colonized, and we have Christian people who point at traditional people and say that's the devil. Like, I mean, I actually come from a community where that is still happening, where this issue or this reality is defined as a conflict. And I think it's one of the reasons that has prevented us from moving forward in our healing. And so, as healing workers graduating from Nechi, if they go out into the community where it is perceived as a conflict, um, I would think they would have to have had some discussion about that.
One of the things that I highly recommend is for people to think outside of their home base, to
Nice.
look at the entire world. The universe is so full and rich. I have a friend who is Muslim who drove me here this morning, and he calls me his sister.
Nice.
And we talk about everything under the sun, the universe.
Nice.
And he believes that we need, as First Nation people, need to address the whole climate change agenda in Canada.
Yep.
That we First Nation people have a lot to offer. And he wants to learn about us.
Yep.
And now that he's a resident in Canada, and him and his family came here as refugees, they're Muslims, and invites me to his community to their celebrations. And I find that so heartwarming. And in the early morning we have this discussion, and I think that the more that we open up our hearts and our learning, is that the world is out there for us to teach. you
Mhm.
know and our role as traditional women is to heal
Mm.
and to teach,
Mm. Yeah.
as our grandmothers did for many,
Love
many
that.
generations.
I love that answer. So what I heard you saying was that, students come to Nietzsche and may have been indoctrinated in terms of seeing this reality as a conflict. But what you do is you teach people there to see themselves as a part of the world. And then they can go home and teach other people to see themselves in the context of not just, their what's right in front of their face, that they have to see themselves as a part of the world, and that it's a human rights issue, that we're human beings and we have a responsibility to choose our own paths, eh? Yeah.
Well, one of the things is that I think as persons, who we are. I'm a residential school survivor, and I make no bones about it. I tell people what happened to me as a child, but I can't dwell on that. I
Yeah.
can't be stuck in that mode where I'm poor, and every day I'm suffering and this and that. No, I got to deal with my own heart, my own childhood, and the things that have caused me to do things that are maybe not very savory or acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And I had to ask for forgiveness, and I do the best that I can with the resources I have. Now, that may not be enough. I can't be everywhere, right? But
Mhm.
we have to develop this movement of healers
Mm.
nationwide to address this. You and I, Joan, have done our work, but we need to help our next generations of young people. Otherwise, this is a recipe for failure.
Yeah.
We have a national health crisis where there's not one community, I haven't encountered one community that says, I'm completely healed. I don't have a drug and alcohol mental health issue in my community. I've not met that one person yet.
Yeah.
No, and if anything, our people are grief struck completely. We don't have time to recover from one loss. Another one happens, another one happens, another one happens. And even those that come from the healthiest, I would say, families in our nations are really grieving and suffering right now. And our mothers and the fathers are bearing the loss.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the problems. but not everybody knows what to do about it.
Yeah.
So what we do at Nechi is we can come to the community. We send our trainers. Like right now, we're all set to go to Manitoba for the next till next spring. So
Nice.
that's 2 courses per month.
Mm.
We send our trainers there, and they're very highly skilled people. And then, or we do it online.
Mm.
And then we were forced online for 2 reasons. One is we got booted out of our own building in 3 years ago.
It's
And then
crazy.
there's a pandemic that happened at the same time. So
Yeah.
here we were in a snowbank, and thankfully we had our own trailers, and we had enough funds set aside to purchase all this wonderful computers and so on. And we trained up all our staff to learn and teach online. So it was a transition. But then that's what we need to do in the community too, is we need to change,
Yeah.
right? We need to, and change is painful
Mm-hmm.
because everybody is in their comfort zone and not happy with anybody coming telling them what to do, especially not Marilyn Buffalo or Joan Jack, right? I mean, get out of here, They just like, we're, thank you very much. They ask us to kindly please and exit to the same. Nobody wants to be told what the
No,
problem is, right?
no, no.
Nobody wants to know
I feel
because,
like I want to tell a story. Let me tell you
right?
a fun
Go
story.
ahead. Go ahead.
So I was driving with this woman. I'm not going to tell too many details because some listeners might recognize who she is. I was driving with this woman who I was giving her a ride, and she always complains, like she's one of those people that just complains constantly. And a residential school survivor, really, I could relate because I used to identify as a victim. But like you said, we've done our work. So I don't identify as a victim anymore. There's no power in that. And so she was, very, very ingrained in her victim identity. And I said to her, "Oh my goodness, I just received a vision." I said, "Can I share it with you?" And she's like, "Well, yeah." I said, "I think it might upset you though. Can I still share it?" She looked at me, we were in my truck, and she said, "Okay then." And so I said to her, "As you were talking, I saw you were a little girl, and you were about maybe eight, and you were playing in that soft mud, that mud that's kind of thick and kind of turns almost like clay, and your shoes were you were playing in the mud, like with your shoes they were going suck 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 your shoes, and then all of a sudden they got too stuck and you couldn't get your shoes out anymore, and your only choice was to leave your shoes. And I'm just over here on the edge where it's not muddy, it's dry. And I'm saying to you in the vision, "Come on, jump. I'll catch you. I'm right here. I'll catch you." And she looked at me and she said, "I don't want to jump. I like my shoes." I said, "Okay." I said, "What are you worried about?" "Well," she said, "what if I jump over there with you and I don't get any new shoes?" And I said, "Well, maybe you'll learn to walk without shoes. Maybe the bottoms of your feet will get tough." Huh. I said, "Or maybe you'll get new shoes." And then she said, "What if my new shoes hurt me? What if my new shoes hurt?" And I said, "Well, after a while, the new shoes will break in. They'll wear in and then they'll become your old shoes. Come on, jump. I'm right here." And then she said, "No, no, I'm just going to stay here stuck in the mud. This is where I'm comfortable." And I feel sad that many of our people are in that space where, it's like an old George Jones song, "Any love is better than no love at all." And so people are, like you said, people are comfortable with their misery because it's familiar. And that's actually a phenomenon in healing that I was just listening to another book on trauma where the professor or whoever wrote the book was talking about the phenomenon of the traumatized choosing to continue to engage in traumatizing behavior because it's familiar, you know? And so I just thought I'd share that with you. It came to my mind that when I was driving that time. Yeah.
Well, it's very one time a friend of mine who was the head nurse at the Ponoka Mental Hospital was my friend for well, since I was 13 years old, because we went to the same church when I was in boarding school, junior high, and she actually got married on our reserve. But she was my friend, and she became she. I helped her with her PhD thesis,
Mm.
and her thesis was in how creative are people, or any people, human behavior, how creative they could be to resisting change. So I got so intrigued by this because here I'm a stay-at-home single mother, at the time, and I got bored and I thought, well, I gotta help this poor white woman here. No, she's so pitiful and so bright. I mean, she was my best friend. And at any time she had an issue and trying to understand, I mean, she came from Ireland and did her master's in McGill and then her PhD at the U of A. And she brought these binders and binders and binders of document. Oh my goodness! So I read all this stuff, and then every Sunday we'd get together. We would go to church together. In the afternoon, we'd go to the sweat lodge. Anyway, I converted her to the sweat lodge, and so and then she was fasting also with us, and she said, your people are so civilized, and even in the way you handle death, you
Mm.
celebrate a life. You have food, you feast for the dead. You have 2 3 days of prayer and song and sharing, and people come and they join and they do the grief counseling. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, us, we have an hour of mass and maybe a couple of sandwiches, and we bury them, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following year, your people, you have a feast, you have a memorial, you have a potlatch, you do all that weird, wonderful stuff. I just think it's so healthy. So here is this woman with a PhD, who's a psychiatric nurse in the head hospital in Western Canada, and she comes to me on my reserve, and
Mm.
we, as a small child, and till her death, she lived till she was 69 years old. But
Mm.
at her funeral, we honored her.
Nice.
We celebrated her. Plus, we went to the church and we we testified in her eulogy. We eulogized her and her.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we did while we were, and this is a long time. It's about 25 years ago. For heaven's sakes, this would be 1990,
Mm-hmm.
and she no, it would be in the 80s, the late 80s, 88, 89. Anyway, so she asked me one day, she said, what could we do? I said, there's this need for healing in our community, and all these faiths and so on. It seems like it's a big competition for the souls. Nothing has
Yeah.
changed much,
Yeah.
right, since
Yeah.
in our childhood. And I said, but we need to return to somehow a form of respect
Mm-hmm.
where we could all sit together in healing ceremony and
Yeah.
circles.
Yeah.
And, I mean, white people call them therapeutic circles and so on.
Yeah.
But with us, it's ceremony,
Yeah.
right? If there's a smudging that takes place. And so we do that. And we, I think, went through 200 individuals in my nation in the Samson Cree before she passed away.
Oh.
Many of those 200 people
Mm.
have all gone on to
Mm.
degrees, to
Mm.
healing their families and so on.
Mm.
But every Tuesday they used to meet,
Mm.
and to me, I think that in the careers that we've had, I mean, you and I, and we've done all these things. It's more like the Nechi method,
Yeah.
but we need to instill that more broader, I think.
Yeah,
I
but
was doing Nechi work before I was ever
with Nietzsche,
before I was at Nechi, yeah.
that's
But
what
anyway, I
bothers
wanted to
me.
mention we're entering this fall era where everybody's going to be orangified, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And every child matters. I took care in finding my T-shirt that I was
yeah,
given here in Edmonton, which I just love. And we're also going to have National Addictions Awareness Week
yeah,
coming up in this year. And then we have at the end of September, we have this Truth and Reconciliation Day.
yeah.
Plus, we have the Healing Our Spirit Worldwide.
Mm,
I know historically many of these celebrations came from Nietzsche.
mm.
Healing Our Spirit Worldwide originated from here.
Okay.
National Addictions Awareness Week, NA Week, originated from Nietzsche.
Hmm.
I know the people, the elders that did all that foundational work,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is interested in wearing an orange shirt, you know. And but where's the action piece? After we celebrate wearing orange, nothing changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing changes. Yeah. So I think the more that we can build this movement of peoples that are loving and caring and that will learn how to deal with an addict first of
Yeah,
all with some compassion, to be more analytical and not take personally their behaviors, but to understand and how you can help them and how you can talk to them and so on. So a lot of the courses in addressing suicide and loss, grief and loss, and all of that is, that's impacting our community, is what they will learn in the training. So
mm-hmm.
the first year's 13 courses, you get a certificate. The second year, a diploma. And
Mm-hmm.
all of our courses are transferable to university.
Mm-hmm.
So we've developed over the pandemic, my staff and I, we've developed new curriculum on art therapy, mental health, how to address mental health issues through arts, traditional arts,
Hmm.
which means our dance, our singing, our drum making, our, beading, all of that. That's so therapeutic. That's our grandmother's gifts, right?
Yeah,
As what we do in our spare time when we need to heal
yeah,
or we need to just have time out, is we do all of this beautiful art,
yeah,
and that goes unrecognized as
yeah.
being very therapeutic and healing. So we have that now. We're just waiting for it to be accredited. We're also, I want to honor my friend June Black, Chief June Black from Ontario.
Okay.
She made it mandatory for all 34 of her staff to take Nietzsche training in pharmacology.
Wow.
This summer, we flew our staff to train 1 week at a time in her community.
Mm-hmm.
And some may be not happy to take this course, but at the end they understand. Holy smokes,
Yes,
that's what that drug does to my body,
yes.
and to the people in the community,
Hmm.
and the physiology and understanding. Like we have a nurse on staff that teaches the pharmacology
Yeah,
and the effect of these drugs on the brain
yeah,
and some of the behaviors as a result of that damage that these addictions is doing to our people,
yeah,
our bodies.
yeah,
So I think that to me is part of the harsh reality,
yeah.
that we need to address as early as possible. We also have a new curriculum that we've developed over pandemic. It's called the Grandparents Sacred Lodge. This
Mm.
is also geared for junior high and also geared for high school.
Okay.
We've already tested it. We trained 12 young people from all across Alberta and Saskatchewan. We brought them in free. We got the elders.
Mm.
Um, and so they stayed with us for 1 week, and I might say that, to them it wasn't a party. It wasn't a party at all. It was very healing for them, and I think many of them came from mostly from northern isolated communities, and they thought, "Oh, whoopee, we're going to Edmonton. We're going to have this 1 week."
Yeah.
By the end of the week, they really, really enjoyed it. So we have that curriculum as well, um, to address the needs in the areas of prevention, especially.
Yeah.
And we welcome anybody to take that training. Especially sports coaches or people that are in the health field that are directing, education superintendents and health directors and different fields that are front line in our communities.
Can
I
people
totally
come?
encourage them.
Can people register at Nechi for just one or two courses, or do they have to be in your degree program?
No, people can take. We can design, for instance, depending on the needs of the community. There's not one size fits all. There
Okay.
is a core curriculum that we address in each one of these components. But
Yeah.
we can take a training, say, do you want to address Indian residential school? We can do that.
Mm.
Do you want to address those children that have aged out of the child welfare systems and want to find their way back? We have a program for that. It's called Finding Your Way Back.
Hmm.
And we help them to ground them and to find their families and so forth, and do the genealogy and teach them how to do their own personal research.
Hmm.
And so, because there's a need for that, right?
Hmm.
But those also that need to address some of the mental health, the very serious mental health issues, we can come in and do that as well.
Hmm.
There's also a community. What would we call it? It's a community capacity in assessing your needs, and how do we go about the. It would be great for, like, say, the leaders, chief and council. We will come in, and whether it could be done in 1 week components, so it's community
Manageable.
capacity and wellness,
Yeah.
right? And we could come in and help them in that realm,
Hmm.
because all of us are facilitators, but we are to assess the needs, which are, yes, some of our weaknesses in our community, but sometimes when we're caught up in that realm, in that pain with our people, we fail to see all the good stuff,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
strengths, the families, the power of the family,
Yeah.
and our own faith, our elders. We don't consider that to be a strength, and it is,
Yeah.
because that's where we all come from,
Yeah. We have a
right?
question here from one of the listeners. She says, I am doing my advanced master's degree at UBC. Would a course from Nechi be transferable towards my master's degree? That's a very
That
good
would be an assessment that we would have to take. Our dean would sit with your dean,
right.
and what your course goals are. And absolutely, we work with University of Lethbridge. We've worked with U of A, Athabasca University. We can do
So
that as an individual.
that is possible. You just have to contact
Yes.
Marilyn
Hmm.
and get organized to have that figured out. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I still don't have a handle on, like, I get what you're saying about it's not one size fits all, but let's say I'm a busy health director or whatever, and I just want to take a course, and so I can go and look at any institution and think, oh, okay, I've got time for this course. It's scheduled at this time, at these dates. Okay, I can do that. So is that available through Nechi? Like, can people go? I haven't been to your website. I apologize. I've been driving across the country. So, like, can people go to your website, and is there a schedule of upcoming courses that people can register for online?
Yes, and also if they should call, we could schedule them. Say we may have a course that's starting in November,
Yeah.
and they call us today. We can book them and schedule them for that.
Oh, I
Like,
see. Okay.
yeah,
But to see the curriculum, like to see what's available in terms of the curriculum, they can go to the website and see what's upcoming there, and then say, oh, especially with the online movement, like it's really great now. Like I'm always engaged in something extra, whatever. Like this weekend, I'm starting a year-long leadership training program through Landmark Worldwide, which is a global professional personal development institution. And I've done lots of the training through Landmark, but I'm starting that this weekend, all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And so there's a schedule. And so I pick my courses like that. Like I like to go to do this. I like to always be learning and doing something. And so that's possible through Nechi as well.
absolutely. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
No, I encourage people to call, and the office now we're located in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And it used to be we had a full in residence program where people could come and reside and live in our building. But we
Yeah.
don't have that anymore.
Anymore.
So
Yeah.
a lot has changed at Nietzsche.
Okay.
And
There's another question. Is there a GPA requirement to enter Nietzsche?
no,
No. You
no,
just have to be a year sober, at least a year sober,
absolutely
and
sober.
anybody
Yep.
from anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome.
Our oldest, and I want to share this, our oldest student, since I've been here, was 73 years old.
Wow.
And he was a hunter and a trapper and truck driver.
Huh.
And what was the most amazing thing of all is that his wife had passed away,
Mm,
and she was non-indigenous from the
mm,
United States, and he was from northern Alberta.
mm.
And I've never met anybody so funny and hilarious in my life. And I could relate to him because he reminded me a lot of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, "Why do you want to take this course?"
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, and I tested him at a grade 6 level English.
Mm.
Okay. And he said, as an elder, he said, when my chief and council asked me about my opinion about addictions, how to address the addictions, he said, I want to have an educated opinion.
Nay.
I said, you're on, buddy. And then when I met his children, two non-indigenous children, blonde and blue-eyed, that he raised, his wife's children,
Ah,
and they spoke fluent Cree,
no, beautiful. Hmm.
you're in.
Yeah, beautiful.
That to me is money in the bank,
Mm.
right? That
Mm.
person could never enter U of A,
Mm-hmm.
because of all the prerequisite
I was just
requirements
thinking
and
that
so on.
my husband should come and be and register with me.
Absolutely.
Oh my
I
God, he would
asked.
be so good
Absolutely, and it's all remote
right
now.
up.
There's no more
Ah,
excuses. Oh, I can't afford airfare to Edmonton once.
yeah.
No, no, no. It's all online now.
Wow, that's so
Yeah,
crazy. Hmm.
that's right. And these elders, they're out there now. They're working,
Mm-hmm.
and they were so proud. Their cap and gown. They came and celebrated. And
Hmm.
for our last graduation, like 3 years ago, we had a round dance because that's what the students wanted.
Mm.
This time we're going to have a banquet, and the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta has agreed to be our guest.
Hmm.
She's lovely. She wants to be part of our grand entry and so on. And Dr. Wilton Littlechild has also agreed. And by the way, he taught legal advocacy
Mm.
at the last term.
Nice.
So because he's one of the founders, we always honor Dr. Wilton Littlechild, and he's agreed to come and teach, and we love him. He's
Nice.
part of us.
Hmm.
So our team is really small, but there's 5 of us in our office. Well, 4 full time, but all our trainers are on contract 1 week at a time. And by the way, while we're on this, I'm looking for an English major um, to teach in Manitoba in
Mm.
person. So if you or anybody knows,
Hmm.
tell them to send their resume to marilyn.buffalo@nechi.com. And
Okay.
this happened as of yesterday.
Ah,
So we have in October a need for an English professor in Manitoba,
nice.
northern Manitoba.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, it's very exciting what you're doing there, and it's so great. I think that the fact that Nietzsche's been able to change on the go, with the change in your building infrastructure and COVID, and been able to remorph into something again is real indicative of our Indigenous culture, because I believe a core principle of all Indigenous cultures is the ability to adapt and be flexible and not be rigid and rule oriented. So yeah, I was talking one time with this man who said, yeah, I go down to like, it was somewhere in Brazil, and he said years ago, he was from an oil company, I used to go down there, and at the center of the village, the leader and the medicine people used to be sitting there in all their, traditional regalia and all that. And he said, now the son and grandson are sitting there in their ball caps. And I said to him, what makes you think they're still not powerful? They've just changed their uniform because their old ones scared you to death. So don't judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody may be wearing fake fingernails doesn't mean they don't know how to cut up salmon and moose meat. Yeah, our core value is to be flexible. Yeah.
I call it the ribbons of resilience.
Oh, I love that. You are so
Yeah,
true.
because of the ribbon skirt being the latest fad and
Yeah.
has been for Well, I grew up educated by elders, my great grandmothers, who always wore ribbon skirts. When the Victorian era was kind of carried over into our lands, our territories. So our theme for our graduation is ribbons of resilience.
Love that.
And so resilience is survival, but in a more celebratory manner.
Yeah.
The English word resilience. How do you become resilient?
Yeah.
You have to adapt to change
Absolutely.
and understand that your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and I have many great grandchildren, um, are facing a world that's kind of scary, but
Mm.
you have to teach them in order how to adapt to be
Yeah.
resilient
Yeah. Definitely.
because it's not going to stay the same,
No.
right? My
No.
father was a Korean War veteran and who taught me, that to deal with my anger when I was just leaving residential school in junior high after
Yeah.
going into grade 10 in an all white school.
Yeah.
And what he did for me, I'll always be grateful. He put me in judo.
Mm.
So I trained Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 10 hours, 9, 10 hours a week.
Hmm.
And I learned how to interact with police, with prison guards, and all men,
Yeah.
and not the only girl,
Yeah.
and the only high school student in that program. So I did that for 4 years, that
Wow.
training, because my dad believed that Native women have to be strong, not
Yeah.
only to be fit, to be strong, to be healthy, and drink your milk, not the beer. Drink your milk, not the beer. It's to be competitive, but
Yeah.
in competitive in a nice way that
Healthy.
you're
Healthy
not competing
competition.
with that person over there,
Yeah.
but you're competing with yourself and how you can better yourself,
Yeah.
to equip yourself to be
Yeah.
stronger, to be
Yeah.
healthier,
Yeah.
you know. So that's my my background in Ribbons of Resilience.
I love that. Yeah, since I've known you, I've written down so many one line. In the short time I've known you, I'm going to start my Marilyn Buffalo quote book, a special book of one liners, because
Yeah.
you just say them and they're so powerful. Like today, I wrote down movement of healers nationwide. You know, movement of people who are loving and caring. Like we need a movement of people who are loving and caring. You know, let the caring and the loving rise up
Yeah.
and be that
Yeah.
amongst our people. You know,
Well,
that's what we need.
yeah. Well, there's no more prisons to be had.
Yeah,
Canada's built the prisons, right? We've
yeah,
graduated from residential school and the child welfare system. The next level to graduate to is the federal prison,
yeah,
the remand centers, the youth detention centers.
yeah,
There's no more room there. So
yeah.
let's build colleges, right?
Yes. Or
Let's
like
build
I was telling
colleges
you,
where our
I
people
was,
could go and be fit and
yeah,
trained.
yeah,
We just had the National Aboriginal or Indigenous Games in Halifax,
yeah,
and it's really building this brave space
yes,
as you
yeah,
mentioned at the beginning of our
yeah.
conversation, and I think that's a beautiful theme.
It's
And a
like
brave space could be something as basic as a grandmother's declaring, there'll be no more liquor and drugs in my home.
yeah,
That's it. You got to respect my fire,
yeah,
my home fire.
yeah,
And as a grandmother, you're not welcome here if you're under the influence.
yeah,
Something as basic as that could be a new beginning
yeah. Absolutely,
for that family. And it's
absolutely.
very, very tough. I know that. The
Very,
challenges are even becoming more and more dangerous
yeah,
as we challenge the heavy issues that we carry,
yeah,
and the dads too, and the grandfathers. I speak for my family as the oldest of 11 children. My mother's 94, and
mm,
so with every generation we have to learn how to celebrate each one. And I
mm-hmm,
come from a time when we had 5 generations of women alive, and
mm.
we still have 5 generations of women alive.
Wow,
My mother, who's 94, me at 73, my daughter, my granddaughter, and her son. Like I have 9 great grandchildren.
yeah,
And that's where that power and strength comes from.
yeah,
That if we adopt our role as parents and grandparents, great grandparents, we then make sure that our children,
yeah,
the ceremonies and the protocols are
yeah,
taught
yeah.
so that when we're gone, they in turn take on that role. you know
Absolutely,
they celebrate and they teach how to do a feast, for instance.
yeah.
My daughter was 18 and she knew all of that already. I didn't have to stand over her with a stick and say, you know no. My
Yeah,
grandchildren now are in their 20s and 30s, and they know how to do that. To bring their child into a Sundance Lodge for a naming ceremony,
yeah,
for the blessing of our creator, and how that child should be honored. That's our God-given gift as Indigenous peoples, is to pass that on, to
yeah.
teach the healing process.
Beautiful. Well, that was a great summation. Our hour flew by. So I'm just going to make a closing comment and I'm going to end the broadcast and then you and I can say goodbye offline. And
Super.
so when I started the podcast, I decided that one of the things Brave Indigenous Conversations was all about, for those of you that can see, some people are watching this listening to this as they drive on Spotify. Um, I have earrings on that are Every Child Matters earrings. And these are another Becky Ann piece. I love her reading. Her name's Becky, Becky, second word, capital ANN, and she sells her beading and she supports her sons through her beadwork, and I absolutely love her. And I have so many Becky Anns. I swear it's her spirit. So thanks again, Marilyn. I'm just going to end the broadcast, and then you and I'll say goodbye offline.
One more thing.
Okay, sure.
On, there's a national discussion on child welfare right now.
Yeah,
Not, Bill C-92, and where I think that the equation, there's no equation, but the a lot of the focus is on the child welfare and bringing the community back or bringing the child home. But what they're failing to understand is that the need for healing for the biological parents.
absolutely.
And this is where Nechi shines.
Absolutely.
Nechi can build and work with those, because the parents that I deal with on a as an elder and advisory capacity can only take so many anger management programs, right?
Yeah,
You have to go beyond that, and the
yeah.
child welfare system does not recognize that
No,
traditional healing, and Nietzsche is the answer.
yeah.
And
Awesome.
working with the bio parents, otherwise, what are you bringing them home to?
Exactly. Failure.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I
Thank
hope
you.
to talk to you
Love
more
you
about
all.
that. That's great.